Hello, and welcome to another episode of Getting to Know Nuendo. I'm your host, Lee Riley, and in this episode, we're going to continue a little bit about talking for dialogue editing workflows for motion picture, and we're going to add some ambience and background editing just for fun, right? But before we start the episode, let's kind of look back a little bit, have a little bit of a recap on what we were talking about in last month. Okay. Cool. So we have an audio post-production, right? We were working with dialogue. So we were talking about, the visibility, allowing you to show and hide different things in your session, and bringing in an AAF. So when I went to import an AAF from the dialogue editor, we were basically just seeing an entire slew of tracks. And we took those tracks and went through them a little bit and did a rough edit together, right? So that was the heartbeat, if you will, of our dialogue edit. And we kind of broke that down a little bit and split them onto different tracks, okay? And we also talked a little bit about importing tracks, right? So you can import tracks from other projects, and that allows us to bring in those. Say, for example, I have my dialogue in another session right now. I can click on that and bring it in. So I'd have this all set up. Well, let me deselect that a second because, that's the way it goes, right? And let me get rid of ADR and Foley guide. Don't need those guys. What are they doing there? Okay, so it looks a little different than when we had it last time, right? So this is all of our dialogue that we could import from another session. We also talked a little bit about marker tracks. There was 32 marker tracks and how important they were to come in and add notes in our session. So I could add notes for myself, or I could export these notes to somebody else. These we'll kind of revisit those again a little bit, but I really wanted to recap a little bit on what we did in the last episode, because that's important to introduce us back into this one. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about the new stuff, I think. What a great time to start that. And I'm going to look up and welcome Chetan. Is it Chetan? Hopefully I've got your name correct there. From Connecticut. I'm glad you joined us today. Awesome. Fantastic. You will learn something about Nuendo 11 hopefully today. So, okay. Without further ado, right. Here's our dialogue. So we played this back last time, right? Hopefully you guys are hearing that out there.
What? Oh, coffee is coffee. I don't know how you drink that.
Goes with my fancy lifestyle.
You still messing with that watch material? Honey, you are way too smart for this job.
Indeed, indeed. If you heard that, you were kind of listening to this and you saw the actress, the main actress here, she was speaking and there was no dialogue. Now, this is probably one of those situations whereas it was probably recorded on the day, it wasn't very good, or they changed the script. This is also their idea, the filmmaker's idea, to change the script. We're how many minutes in? 5 minutes in. Music mixing in Dolby Atmos. That's not in this episode, but keep on staying with us. I think that Aldo, was it yesterday? If you look on Aldo went into Dolby Atmos in great detail yesterday, possibly. I don't know. Okay, or maybe it's tomorrow. I think it was yesterday. Anyway, so we were looking at this, and this is what we call backfill. We kind of took, when we brought the AAF in, we were kind of looking at different takes, right? And then we just decided that, okay, here's a piece of room tone that nobody was speaking in. So I'm going to find those areas of room tone and kind of bring those in and sit them to picture. You could also do a couple of tricks like that, if you catch up with Spectral Layers with Mike over there on this sister channel. Basically, he'll go into some details there, but it's all it is filling in the spaces with room tone, because I'm not really a proponent of the, hey, let's push some dialogue through and have a dialogue gate going in and out around the dialogue. I don't particularly like that method. I think things should be kind of seamless. So this is empty, but it's filled in with room tone. It's a little bit dodgy there, but we can kind of go in there and fill and mess around a little bit there and change the fades a little bit. But I have to fill that in because that's going to be ADR. There's going to have to be ADR. There's no other dialogue to fit. Maybe we can talk about ADR coming up soon. So, awesome. And trust me, I'll look up every so often. I'll try to answer and say hello to everyone. And I can see some big loves going around all over the place. This is fantastic to have people jumping in. And I'll mention your name if I can. Greetings from Switzerland and everything up there. Great. Fantastic. And if you have a question, just try and keep it on the topic a little bit, but I'll try and get to it there. Okay. So that is backfill. Now, okay. And that's going to smooth everything out. And you've noticed that I've got these two fill tracks up here, and that's covering in.
Honey, you are way too smart for this job. Tell me why you didn't study medicine.
I had a lot going on.
So I got these perspectives, right? So I said that I cut stuff in perspectives so you can actually change the volumes on those and process them differently and keep them at bay, and trying to keep them under control. Now, the thing is, unfortunately, with dialogue editing, there is a situation whereas we don't necessarily need all this dialogue. We're going to go to all this work, right? And then this dialogue is going to disappear. Now, that is, for anyone out there who knows this, for international release. And that international release is an M&E, right? Music and effects only. And the dialogue stem will be cut from this. So this is the unfortunate downside of being a dialogue editor, that most of the time you're okay, but sometimes your dialogue goes to one side. But here's something that I find interesting with M&E. The fact that, like I said last time, we have production effects, right? And those production effects, let me see here, where have I got my spotting here? That is not where I'm looking. It has not gone to where I wanted it to go. Well, let's go back and do it manually then, should we? Because it's always going to do that live, isn't it? Of course it is. Else it wouldn't be live. Or is it Memorex? That's 1980s. So in this particular, I've made a mark of this using one of our marker tracks. And that's a kind of a gold little gem, because what that is a production effect, which I may steal. I may steal that from the dialogue and add that to my M&E stem when I create that, right? We can talk about creating stems in another episode. I really like to get to all of this stuff, time and poco a poco, as the Spanish would say. And I'll get to this in a bit by bit and as quick as I can. So that is something that I would move over to the M&E track. This is a PFX thing. I talked about it last episode. But that's what we would need for the M&E. Right. I need to talk about Waller. Now, something that's going to smooth this out a little bit, especially the hospital scene, right? That hospital scene,
Honey, you a
there's something missing from it, right? We saw at the beginning where there was an orderly or a nurse or whatever going across, picking up some paperwork, and then she's talking, and then there's going to be a nurse that passes, right? Well, she's going to be our Foley. We'll talk about Foley, hopefully, next episode, right? And we need to deal with that separately, but we need something like Waller to help us in this situation. Now, Waller is kind of underrated, and it shouldn't be. There's some fantastic, talented people out there who are loop groups, and they go out there and they physically watch. They watch the picture and try to talk, whereas it's not really English words. It makes this, sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. So if you can pick it out as being English, you're gonna have to. You can't put that in your music and effects track, unfortunately, because you don't know if it's going to be Spanish or French or German or whatever it may be. So for intents and purposes, I've just added a little bit of background element to this, right? And we'll talk about cutting this in a minute. So people talking in the background, maybe a TV or something, or it just adds.
what? Oh, coffee is coffee.
I know how you drink that.
Goes with my fancy lifestyle.
So that's the next layer of the onion, right? That helps us and it smooths out everything. But there's something else that's going to help us smooth out even more, and that will be our backgrounds. I'll get to what we're going to finish off with the dialogue in a second. I keep looking up, and it was just greetings so far, so we're all good. Greetings to everybody. And here we go with just a quick kind of background situation here. It all depends on the budget, right? On our movies and what we can do in them. And what this is, I can kind of split this up into just a few tracks. I don't quite know what you mean there, hellocentric. But speaking of the mouse, bear with me a second. I forgot to do this before we started. I apologize. This is a display thing, right? I'm going to make this cursor a little bit bigger so you can see where I'm at. Okay, it does mess with me a little bit on my smaller tracks. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to start to show you how I edit a lot of this stuff together, right? First off, I'd background spot, right? I'd go through and spot the perspectives. In this case, I'm just spotting scenes. This scene itself is spotted here, and this is this track. This is created with kind of an empty clip, if you will. Now, I'm going to bear with me a second. I'm going to actually show you what that is. I've got this cut to the entire length of that scene. Right, the hospital scene. If I double click, actually what I have to do is I'm going to have to select. A lot of things in Nuendo you need to actually select and get the cycle across the top. When you see that blue, in my preferences I've set it up as blue, I'm going to double click down here. And what that actually is, that's not an audio track per se. It's on an audio track, but it's not an audio clip. It's difficult to say what it actually is. It's basically a visual representation of a clip, but without any waveforms in it, right? And if I looked in the pool, I wouldn't find it. So it's kind of an anomaly. But I use that to cut things to, right? If I brought some effects down and cut these, I can use that as a guide. Now, my skeletons, got skeletons, and these are what I call ghost clips. So we've got skeletons and ghosts, whatever. It's just been Halloween, but anyway, that's really what it is. These are split to perspectives. You've got this kitchen, then you've got an exterior establishing shot, and then you cut back in to the lobby, right? So I've used that as a marker on my skeleton tracks, okay? Now, I created groups already by putting them into folders. And you're going to say, well, hold on, that's not a group. But it kind of is in Nuendo. There's two ways of looking at this. If you're in another DAW, you could use like Command G, right? So you hit Command G, and that will create a group in a certain other DAW. But in this, I've made it whereas it's going to group together my tracks. Unfortunately, we don't really have a group per se any other way. I'm going to right-click this, link selected channels. So that's Command G. You can see that that's Command G. That is what you would group something with. This is a mix thing, right? So I can record, enable, monitor, I can pan the same, I can volume if I shifted this volume fader, excuse me. If I shifted that, I need some green tea, so bear with me. I can do a lot of things in tandem. They could be linked, right? That's what Command G would be. In the project window, I'm going to use this little guy right here. There's a tiny little button there. And it's telling me that the tracks in this folder are not necessarily all the same size. So it's going to be difficult to edit, but I'm going to persevere. I'm going to move on. I'm going to ignore my warnings here and go for it. And what does this actually allow me to do? Well, if I'm selecting across, right, and then I hit delete, anything inside of that folder, anything part of the edit group is going to be edited with it. Okay? I can clutch this. And what I mean by clutch is I can keep that on. But what I'm going to do now is if I select anything inside of that, it's going to affect it that way as well. But if I take that off, I can actually do individual tracks, right? So I can just, for some odd reason, I might want to delete that. I'm not going to delete it, but it allows me to clutch out of my group, if you will, by getting out of this editing group. The folder part of this aspect is just anything inside of it is going to follow suit, right? So I'm going to edit, for you ladies and gentlemen out there, I'm going to edit something here, and we're going to edit it to picture, and we're going to do it live. Ooh, excellent. Before I do that, though, I'm just going to check my time here. Where are we? 8:20. Okay, I'm just going to look up. I'm going to keep looking up just to see if any more peeps have come in and anyone wants to say hello. And please do. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab a few sound effects here, a couple of them, and build up the layers of this ambience. Because right now, yeah.
What? Oh, coffee is coffee.
Okay, it's room tone, right? In this case, just to let you know, the first track, actually I pulled this from a surround sound session I did a while ago. And I usually, in surround sessions, I like to have at least one track that kind of matches so close to the room tone in the center channel, which will be our dialogue, right? So the dialogue's in the center, so I like to kind of pan that in the center and keep that as a mono track to follow suit, to smooth out even more than my backfill. But in this case, you know, it's going to go to stereo as well as the other tracks in this situation. Right, let's go to the pool here. Now, what was my track called? Okay, probably Hospital. Okay, so my hospital I brought in, and I'm just going to search in the pool, and there it is. I can see that today I did this, and I did this beforehand. Please take that up with Steinberg, Bob. I would have loved to have been promoted. I'm so sorry. But if you like and subscribe, you're gonna actually know ahead a little bit of time. So thank you for joining us. So I'm gonna pull this track in. Okay. I'm gonna do this because it's gonna be loud. This is like a huge air conditioner right in a hall. So I'm going to show you what I just did with that volume in a little bit, all in good time. And the next one I'm going to search for is TACF. So that's my room tone, auditorium. So I'm going to bring that in and place this in right underneath it. And this is on an edit track. And the reason why I'm putting it on an edit track right now is because all of these backgrounds have already been cut all the way around it. So if I start slamming this over here, I'm going to, overlap it. I'm going to make a big mess. So I'm keeping my edit tracks down to one side here. By the way, when I'm doing this, I'm going to have to push things over to the left. There we go. Put the camera over to the left so I'm out of the way, right? What I want to do is grab this here. I'm going to make these two tracks larger. I'm going to bring them up here so we can actually see them. Now, hopefully this is getting into what Heliocentric was asking before. I don't know, but maybe. Okay. I'm going to select a part of this. Now, notice that this clip isn't as big as the entire scene, right? This is going to happen. So I'm going to actually have to edit this. With Nuendo, you see the big hand that we have here, right? That's telling me that's ready for me to grab or copy. Or if I'm down the bottom, notice that I'm still with my cursor. If I'm up near the top, now I'm using my selection part of it. Now that the hand is like if I option click that, right? I'm going to drag it and it's going to go over here. And I'm going to extend it out a little bit over here, right? If I'd have done that with my command key, notice how that's turning into a little icon. That is constraining and staying in time, right? Up and down the timeline. So if I was going to copy that and move it upwards, it'd be option and command and grab that. Okay, but we're not doing that right now. And what I'm going to do, of course, is I'm going to have to put some fades in, right? So I'm going to listen to this a little bit here. Ooh, that's actually pretty good. I got pretty lucky there. But as I select across, F is usually the key that you probably use to create a fade. Now, does anyone know? I apologize again, Bob. If it was up to me, anyway, I'll get in trouble for that comment, but it's only because I love them. So I've got an equal gain fade. Now, most often than that, I've never really had much luck with an equal gain fade. I usually go for the equal power. So if I double click this, it brings up my crossfade box. Now, this is a simple dialog box. I can use, there's a preference actually to go in Nuendo preferences. And let me see here. That's under event display audio. Sorry, my bad. It is right here, right in front of me. And it's take off the simple crossfade editor. The simple crossfade editor generally works for most of your things. If you really want to get super dissecting, you could probably go for the non-simple one, a little bit more in depth. But this is good enough. And I say that because if I could have an equal gain with a curve on it, right? If I look at that, it's going to be slightly curved. I go back to the straight. I can actually modify any of this, like most fade boxes that you can do. I'm going to keep that as it was. The equal power is going to put a 3 dB bump in the center, generally, right? That allows us to go across that, and I think that works better for ambiences and consistent kind of sounds. Okay. No ambiences are complete without a slamming something. There's always this consistent slamming in English shows, I've noticed. Like some of this same sound effect used in every single show that I watch. It's funny. Whether it's a period piece, whether it's a modern piece, anyway, I have a laugh about it. So tell me your favorite sound effects and please jot them in somewhere into the comments. Or things that, like Wilhelm screams and stuff like that. I love those things, So anyway, I digress. People are trying to learn here, Lee. So I've gone past, right? So I'm going to leave that for a second. I've only made one crossfade. Cool. I'm going to take the same thing with my light hum. Go for the handy again. Hold down Option. And I'm going to grab that. Now, what I want to do is I don't want my crossfades to overlap. Because you run a chance of this little bump, right? So if my crossfades are slightly apart, I'm a happy man. Let's take a listen to this bad boy right here. Oh, yeah. You might not hear it unless you're on headphones, but that's quite a low tone, right? That's your 60 hertz, 120 hertz, and all the overtones. That's not a bad. I've got 2 out of 2 here. I'm doing pretty well for live today. Don't jinx it, Lee. Okay, let's take a listen. Yeah, you hear that dip? So I could go in there and try and move that fade around a little bit or bring my dialog box up. I can actually, sorry, I didn't go into this before. I could actually put a pre-roll and post-roll and play the crossfade through, which is kind of cool. And because this is soloed at the moment, we're actually getting the same effect. It's playing for that 5 seconds. It's playing for the 3 seconds before. Thank you. Thank you, Chetan. Awesome. Instant feedback. I like that. Okay. Let's get rid of that bump, right? That dip. So I want to go my equal power route. So I can actually set the default to do that because that drives me insane. I generally like it to be equal power, and if I don't like it, I'll change it. Cool. Works for you? Right. And when we listen to both of them together,
Change could be nice.
bit heavy,
Fresh
but
start for both of them could be good.
what? Those backgrounds.
I wouldn't.
Okay, that's not long enough. So let me see if I can stretch that out. Now, if I wanted to move any of this stuff, I could edit it by, you see my folder there? Everything that's inside of that folder, look what I've done. I've messed it all up again. What did I do? What did you do, Lee? Anything that's inside of that folder, you see how it's editing everything. So it's doing to all, right, which is kind of cool. Right now, because we're editing here, I actually snapped it straight away. I did it without even trying. What I could have done there is, let me undo that. Okay. What I could have done is use my little trick. Because everything inside of that folder is going to do the same thing. I'm going to hit S. That's my Pro Tools trick. So going from another DAW, I took my quick keys that I took with that. I took A. Display a message, headphone on. So yes, please. I mean, I'll tell you when that's the case. I'd love to do that, because then if you're looking at all the screens that I'm looking at right now, I'm looking at 3 of them. I know I should be looking at 4. There we go. Awesome. Bob can do that for me. Bob can actually put the headphones up there and do that for me. So once again, I'm going to hit the S. So that's helped me, right? Okay, what are we going to look at next? All my fade stuff. Oh, yeah. So that was the non-group versus group stuff. Now I can go in, I can hit my G key, right, which will allow me to, it has affected everything, and I've overlapped by 2 frames. I keep everything in frames when I'm working with picture, right? 2 frames is kind of my standard for scenes, 2-frame overlap. That seems to work really, really well. So you notice that when I click on I have the option of not seeing the fade, or I can actually go to the preferences, and once again, I can do this and say, sorry, I'm in the wrong place again. Oh, where did it go? Show event volume curves. There we go. Show event volume curves. So if I hit that, there you go. You see how that is always prevalent. It's always shown wherever I am. You can see all the fades. No, that's fine, right? You could work that way. I have no issue with that either. But it also constantly shows you the clip gain. So that's kind of annoying a little bit. It depends. It depends completely on your workflow, right? Everything in Nuendo is customizable. So let's leave it like that for a second so we can see what the heck is going on, all right? So that's our background edit. Oh, I didn't do the beginning, did I? Silly Lee. So that's my point. 2 frames in. I'm going to put my D key for fade in. I'm going to drag this bad boy out. You know what? I messed up, didn't I? I didn't make that long enough. So I'm going to grab that. I'm going to look back at my fade. The fade is dragged with it. Let me show you that. The fade's dragged with it. I can drag that fade back out because it's taken the audio file and just shifted it along, that's all, and dragged the fade out. Let me double check that fade again. Excellent. If I click on that and hit the left arrow, that's the best thing for me to do. Hit the left arrow. That's what I do, is I get to the beginning of my file. So there we go again. Click. What's the key? A. Okay, cool. What's the key? D. Excellent. So now, live, fairly quickly, of course I can do this a lot faster. But I've now edited my backgrounds there. So let's take a listen to this little scene again, and then we can move on and get backgrounds out of our life. Establishing. Okay, that's really loud. Okay. Crossfading. Oh, this brings us perfectly. My little cheat sheet here. So that's too loud. I'm going to grab both of those. I selected both. Now, for those of you sharp-eyed, let's go to our preferences here. Sorry, when I go past I might go off axis here, but for those of you who noticed this, use mouse wheel for event volumes and fades. How can you say the P word? No, it's PT, right? I think that's what it is. Use mouse wheel for event volume and fades. Okay. For those of you who like using those, I guess you can see that, right? Awesome. I've got a little wheel and thumb. So that's how I roll on 22s. Or is it 27s now? Probably 27s. And that will allow me, see how I'm moving that and clicking and holding and pulling that up and down. That's going to change. And that is kind of like clip gain, right? As close as we can to being clip gain in another DAW. And I'm doing the same thing with that. Let's take a listen.
What? Oh, coffee is coffee.
I don't know how you drink that.
Okay. Still too loud, but you know what? What the heck? Now, last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to drag all those. I'm going to hold down Command. I'm going to drag. Oh! I thought it was my mouse earlier. It's been a bit of a finicky today. I changed the battery in the mouse, but see what happened there? Something happened. Oh, because I moved the fade. Okay, well, that's fine because I can move that over, right? I can still move it over, and it's good to go. Awesome, because we're working in frames. Beautiful. I got such a great audience tonight. Right. Let's move on, shall we? That sounds pretty good. And of course, this is my backgrounds. I can bring all my backgrounds down with one fader because it's all in one group. Cool. Next thing. Oh, sorry, clip volume versus pencil. My bad. Let's take this bad boy right here. Okay.
Oh, coffee is coffee.
I don't know how you drink that.
Oh, coffee's coffee. Now, as I said, I could just use the wheel. You'll notice up at the top here, it will show you the volume. And I've almost forgotten about these. One of the best features to quickly put fades in. Nuendo has an auto fade feature, by the way. You can set that in your preferences. Let me get to that in a second. Don't want to go off on a tangent. I've been off on too many already. So there we have that. I've already told you about that. But remember back in episode 1, long time ago, I know. So you can have the pencil tool, which will allow you to kind of do the same thing and go in and fine tune this kind of stuff. They may look familiar, right? This is also very similar in automation. This is automation lane. Okay. So we'll talk about automation in a future episode as well, and mixing. Right. So, oh yeah, fades. Let me do this real quick because it's awesome. Okay. Right. Let's say, just for the heck, mouse, behave. In fact, if I selected all of these, and I have this set, Control A is going to select everything on those tracks. Command A does something a little bit different. That will select a different way. So Control A for me is that. What I've done is I've selected everything on those tracks. Okay, if you've noticed up here, we've got to fade in and fade out. I can batch fade these puppies. The lanes wider and narrow as click and drag in an efficient way. Excellent. Give me 1 second, Oscar. So I'm ready for my pièce de résistance, right? So basically, fade in, fade out. I can batch everything. Boom. Done. I've put 2 fades in the front, 2 fades in the back. Yes, you can double click, Command F, type in, milliseconds. What's milliseconds? How many frames is that? Have a guess. Whatever, right? So, yeah. So I think that's a really, really cool thing. Really cool thing that they've added. So to answer Oscar, awesome. So Oscar's been doing this, whereas he's dragging. Is that what you're doing, Oscar? I guess. I set it up to be control up and down arrow. And what that is if you know me well enough after 3 episodes and you stick with me, I've even got a quick key for the quick key dialogue window, which is K. Key commands. So zoom out tracks, control down and control up. That's exactly what Oscar's doing. So now what I can do is assign, and the reason why I'm doing this stuff is I used to teach Pro Tools many, many years ago. I was a Pro Tools user for 20 years and I still am. I really want to make this a pretty close industry standard. I think it has the power to do it. For those of you who are moving from Pro Tools, it makes sense, right? To have, Pro Tools key commands, which will at least help you. Make it an easier, and I have 3 videos on this as well on the Nuendo channel, right? Where you go and you look at getting into Nuendo from Pro Tools, and it's a good move. So you type in that key, command up, command down, whatever it is, assign it, save it, right? Nothing different there. So that's for Oscar there. This is going out for Oscar. This is basically what I was doing. Right. Or I could actually assign it whereas I'm going up and down arrow, and that navigates down. But when I hit control, when I get to that track, you can assign a lot of stuff here. You're welcome. You're welcome. You can assign a lot of stuff. Incredible. Awesome. So why would I need to change volume? Here we go. Now I've got my camera over to the left here because I'm going to show this. Give me a second here while I have a sip of my green tea. Oh, that was more than a sip, wasn't it? Ooh, boy. Anyway. Yes, that's a meter, right? Big deal. Great meter. Loudness. A lot of our goal here today, really, at the end of this, we're going to create together. We're going to create this. I'm going to mute all this stuff, right? I'm going to hide it. And mute my backgrounds. Mute my walla. This is all just an addition to, yes, it is an elegant solution. It's everything's elegant in Nuendo. I want to make a dialogue guide. That's what I want to do today. Who the heck would want a dialogue guide? The composer wants a dialogue guide. The composer doesn't want the temporary music and the temp effects and everything in. The composer will hate you. Yes. The Foley department, the sound supervisor department. I mean, everyone. I mean, this is a dialogue guide. It's the heartbeat. It's the flow of the entire production, right? And it's obviously overlooked. We always talk about this in our forums, but it's one of those things. But we're going to make a rough dialogue guide. So that means exporting it. It means mixing. It means recording. Okay. For those who are used to this stuff, there's going to be dialogue is a driver for it was way back in the early, the Dolby days with DVDs and normalization and everything else in the negative 27 dB FS. And then now we're at negative 23, 0 LU. We're at, we're in a different kind of a metering system now with the EBU and ITU, and Netflix and all these different platforms, have different specs. So this helps us determine true peak value. Right here, I've got all the settings. I can have reference, momentary, max. I can have short-term, integrated true peak. True peak on Netflix is going to be different than Spotify, or so it's just you've got to be careful with these mixing levels and standards. I use that in quotations, right? So I'm going to set this at -2, right? Could be safe there. I'm going to set my tolerance at plus and minus, 0.2. I could set it at, a different one, whatever I want it to be. Plus and minus 1 on my -23 LUFS. All these things I can set right here. I can go a bit more in depth into this, along with supervision and all this other good stuff later on. Got some really, really good stuff for mixing with, right? And for post-production. If I was doing this in real time and playing this in real time, I would, activate this. And what I could do is, yes, it's going to start reading.
Hey, Dad. Just getting home? What gave it away? Don't let your mom see you. We'll talk in the morning.
It's not a loud scene, and that's the problem, when it's not a loud scene. But, this is a dialogue guide. Will change your work afterwards. Exactly, yeah. So Oscar says, the bad thing is different platforms will change your work afterwards. Yes, that's we're always at the mercy of that. Like I said, we could do all this dialogue stuff, and then there's going to be an M&E where you don't need dialogue. So, but at least you can use it for national stuff, right? Domestic. You can get to do ADR and all that good stuff. And so this is reading something. This is not, I could compress this. I'm going to have to compress this if I was mixing this to picture. But we're doing a dialogue guide. It's going to be very simple so everyone can at least hear something and not hear buzzes and interfering and all this other good stuff. So I could bring a loudness track up, and I've been very cunning here, and I've made one earlier because that's how I roll. And remember, if you've seen me do this before, we have 32 marker tracks in Nuendo, but I want to make this particular track the target. Okay. I have made, by magic, a selection. Okay. I have selected this scene to work with you here. So, I'm going to go in and I'm going to create Shift Option T is my quick key for adding track. Shift Command N for new track, but that's audio track only. I've made this so I can actually create a loudness track. Now, I did this earlier and I couldn't get rid of it, but bear with me. So it's active, right? So it's active, and when it's active, that means I can go along here and it'll start to read it. If I hit record, it's going to start recording, right?
What? Oh, coffee is coffee.
I don't know how you drink that.
Goes with my fancy lifestyle.
You still messing with that? What you do?
Okay, so you get the point. It's going in and making references as to where the short term is at, right? If we go past true peak, which is that red line, then it's going to show in red, right? So you can use this as a mixer. If you were doing this, mixing this, you could look at this and go in there and start to correct, right? I can do this for the entire project. I can do a quick non-real-time analyzation, which is the quick analysis. Quick analysis does not work, even if, here's a little quirk here. If you're trying this at home, this is a quirk. When you're trying to click on a marker track, you can't deselect anything. You have to click on an audio track. And I deselected my cycle marker. If I had to go to hit quick analysis, it's going to say, the specified range is too short. What are you thinking? Specified range? I haven't specified a range yet. Well, what that means is when you're clicking on something, Nuendo puts the two ends, the bookends of in and out points together, right? So of course it's not. It's going to be one sample or 3 pixels or whatever it's going to be, right? So I'm going to have to make sure that I'm selecting, and I can go through and quick analyze this. It's going to take a few seconds, so talk amongst yourselves while I'm looking at some questions. That's Jam Studios. Is there a way for Nuendo to process your project to measure overall loudness? So that's exactly what we're doing now, right? So this is because it's the only thing that is unmuted is our dialogue. So if I had my music, I had my sound effects, I had all my Foley, dialogue, backgrounds, ambiences, all this good stuff. If I had all those in my session and ran this in real time or in a quick analysis, that's going to do basically, I think, what Jam Studios is looking at. It does take an analysis, or you can actually do this in real time and then go off for an hour and a half while your picture is analyzing, right, in real time. That's what it's doing. You can also do that, not analyze, but you can actually force your audio to be at a certain RMS level. When I'm getting to, please remind me when I'm getting to the export functions in a little bit, that you can actually do that. Okay. So we've had that 20 odd seconds or 30 seconds of analysis. So I've done this both in real time and I've done this with a quick analysis, faster than real time. Okay. Awesome. How are we doing so far? We're good? Great. Let me take this loudness off. I'm going to just, instead of, let's put it to one side. Let's take, you're welcome, Jam. Hopefully, yes. So that I'd answered your question there. My target, my kingdom for a target. There we go. Because this is my cheat sheet. Because to try and do all this stuff and remember exactly what you're doing for an hour and a bit, right? We're approaching an hour now together. We've made an hour. Awesome. Fantastic. I'm not boring you. We still have the same people with us. Excellent. That's what I like to see. We're on the right near the end now. That's it. We're almost there. Speaking of exporting, excellent. I'm going to bring that back again, and I'm going to go back to my right-hand side camera. There I am. Awesome. Or I can just take me off completely, but I'm supposed to keep myself on there for some odd reason to probably check on me or something. Now we've got our dialogue ready to rock and roll, right? Let's say we're taking this hospital lobby scene. We've gone in there, we've mixed it. We want a dialogue guide. Why the heck would I want to do this? As I said, the director might say, hey, have you finished that yet? Or the sound super might say, hey, Danny. Good to see you, brother. Danny, welcome, Danny, everyone. The maestro, Il Maestro himself. So, worked with him on many occasions. Thank you for joining us for Full Sail Game Audio Production class. Game Audio Production Techniques. Yes. Okay. Where was I now? We were creating a dialogue guide, right? So what we need to do, there's two ways of doing this. There's a way of recording it, physically recording it to a track. There's also a way of exporting it or bouncing it to disk, if you will, right? So I'm going to record it first. We're going to kind of go old school here because I'm kind of an old school guy. So for those of you who noticed me fiddling around with this fader down here, that's my group fader for the dialogue, right? So I'm going to use that. I'm going to create that's Shift Apple N for those of you keeping up. This is going to be my dialogue guide. Okay. I'm just going to call that as is right now. I'm going to color it. Where did my red go? I'm going to do that for Danny. I'm going to color that red for Danny. So, am I using Monterey? No, I am using Catalina still. That's got to be careful with Monterey, as we know. I believe Rosetta, it's going to work on that, but I don't know if it doesn't. Otherwise, you have to kind of throw that question out, or just put it in the comments, please, and I'll make sure it gets to everybody. Dialogue guide, right? How the heck do I re-record? Re-recording mixer. Ooh, how do I re-record this? My dialogue to that track. Well, it's going to take some buses. For those of you who have seen this before, it doesn't quite work the same way. This is something that 6 years ago when I got to know Nuendo, it was frustrating for me, I must admit. I had to recalculate my brain. And the person that recalculated my brain for me just said, "Good job, Lee," and like that. He'll get a chuckle out of this one. You can create buses from your outputs, and you're thinking, well, hold on a second. Buses to my outputs. What do you mean? Go out my interface? But no. This is a bus itself. And I can make this as a record bus. And this record bus is, yes, it can go out of my interface. I can send something out of my interface, but I'd have to bring it back in, right? But I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to use not connected. And this was the big confusing thing for me. You're creating this invisible bus, but you're not creating an input bus. It's just one bus. It's magical. But anyway, stay with the magic, because I'm going to show you how to use this. Okay, record bus. So therefore, let's work on our workflow, right? Everything's flowing. The output of this track, if I look to the inspector over here, the output of this track, invisible bus. Nice. This is going to our master bus, which goes to the output. Okay, I want it now. Where is it? There's my record bus. Okay, so it's an output. Ready for your mind-blowing session here is the fact that my input, right? I got my inputs just set as a microphone, which I'm not using at the moment. This is going in USB. And stereo, which is not even being used either. Nothing's connected. I'm going to use the output bus of that track, and it's listed under outputs. So that's my record. Right. So when I put that into monitor, which by the way I've got as the tilde key, of course, you know I've got a quick key for that. I'm going to play this. Yay. And this is all live.
What? Oh, coffee is coffee.
Okay, it works. It's fantastic. Let's record it, shall we? Let's record Armit. And this is our selection, Hospital Lobby. I'm not going to record the whole thing, but I'm just going to hit 3.
What? Oh, coffee is coffee.
I don't know how you drink that.
Goes with my fancy lifestyle.
Okay, you get the point, right? So now we've recorded this dialogue guide. We could have done that for the entire scene, exported that. Excellent. Now, you're saying, well, okay, what if I wanted to do it faster than real time? Okay, come on, Lee, this is the 21st century. It's 2021, and we're all over this already. Let's do this faster than real time. Cool. We can do that, right? Of course we can. File, export. Audio, Mixdown. That's Control E for me. Here we go. Right. Okay, so I can bounce this. Multiple formats, multiple destinations. Let's start with just a single destination. Here is our output. I can bounce it through that record bus I just made. Won't do me any good because it's not really going anywhere. I could just use the dialogue bus. I can use any one of these buses, so group channels. Imagine an aux track on its own exporting something. Or I can actually just grab any track and just export it by this method. Okay? I'm going to go back to that. When it's in single mode, it's going to deactivate and toggle between whatever I need to do. When we're in single mode, I'm going to go to the file location. Now, the file location has where do you want it to go to? What do you want it to be named? Okay. And it's currently named as I like it after the cycle marker. Now, there's no cycle markers here so far. So what I'm going to have to do is kind of put this to one side. Excuse me. I'm going to use the loudness marker temporarily. Okay. That has now been activated. Whatever marker has been activated now will show up in my export box. Okay. So, as if by magic, I can say cycle marker, yes, please. It will be named Hospital Lobby. Right? If I want to name it the project name, I can drag that in before it. Project name, cycle marker. Do I want it to be named after the channel name? Yes. There we go. So you're going to see an example of it right now. It's episode 3, editing workflows 12/22/21, which is the palindrome, right? Ooh, 12/22/21. That's why I'm acting all wacky with my green tea. Awesome. Hospital Lobby output. Hopefully I haven't scared you away yet. So that will allow me to click on this, and now it's a naming scheme, and I can save that as a certain naming scheme. I can just use a default. I can delete all this stuff. I mean, clicking on this stuff will delete it as well. Kind of cool, right? Yeah. So now it's Hospital Lobby. Let's go back to the basics. Where is it going to go? Path. You can actually, by default, go to a Project Mixdown folder. I believe someone asked a question on this a few months ago. So someone went over this in the What's New in Nuendo 11. And I believe, don't hold me to this 100%, that when you're doing multiple stuff, by the way, I haven't done that yet, have I? Pièce de résistance. I can send this signal. I can send all these outputs simultaneously. Well, Nuendo's going to do the number crunching and say, okay, everything's going to squeeze down this bus, everything's going to squeeze down this bus, because you may have the same effects that's a bit dangerous going to multiple buses. But it's all up to you. if it's a multiple destination, it will create separate folders. You've got a project Mixdown folder as your default, but you can use the project audio folder, or you can choose wherever the heck you want to take it. When it is multiple, okay, you can see this down here. I'm clicking on this. You can put disabled, dry, or you can go through certain groups. You can actually assign your effects to go through. Make sure all my effects go through a certain groups, or the master fader, master track, if you will, groups and sends. Okay. I have to export what I want to do with it. Do I want to take that and put it into another project? Yes, no. Do I want to create an audio track and place it underneath in my timeline? Maybe. Just double check it, right? We always have to double check our work, right? Insert to pool. Yes. That puts it into where all my audio files are. Cool. Let's go back to single again. Okay. If you're working in gaming, you may like to insert IXML chunk. That puts different information in the header. We'll talk about game audio in another episode. That'll be interesting. It's good. And I think to continue on Jam Studios, I believe, normalizing to integrated loudness. So if you went to bounce this, you are bouncing to what level you would like with a true peak level. Okay. I would just use that as a word of caution, just to do something rough. I would rather look at meters first, and if you know, but it's at least it's there as an option. What a great option, right? To normalize that. WAV files, A files, MXF, MPEG, it's MP3s, FLAC, OGG Vorbis as different compression schemes. You can go to different 64-bit, 32-bit, different sample rates. Look at that, 384K. And yeah, wow, that's awesome. That's right below DSD. Excellent. 1-bit DSD. Whatever happened to that? We still have it, right? Okay, cool. What do I need to do? I need to click on that. I need to add it to the queue, because if I didn't add it to the queue, I wouldn't export anything. I want it to be the output. The dialog bus is unmuted. Unfortunately, the dialog bus is going to another bus. It needs to go to the output, right? Before we did that. I'm not going to bounce it, but I just thought about that. I'm going to add it to the queue. This will tell us a lot about what it's going to do. It's called Hospital Lobby. It's going to the project mix folder. It is a 24-bit 48K file. And I'm going, do I want it in real time or do I want it faster than real time? Let's go faster than real time. Okay. I can just start the queue, right? I can always cancel it. It's going to take a few seconds, actually. It's not too bad. But I'm going to cancel it, right? I don't want to create that file. But that's what it's going to do. That will save it where we need it to be. Cool. Let me get back to my little cheat sheet here. There's not much left. Parting is sweet sorrow. Export naming. Oh, okay. So we've done the real time. Uh-oh, it's retracted. Well, did I do something wrong? Basically, we've talked about real time versus fast bounce. There's 3 more things I want to talk about, and then we're going to say Merry Christmas or Happy Holidays. Exporting a video. Let's say we have a composer somewhere out in the ether, and they want to see a video with just the dialogue on its own, with no temporary music and temporary sound effects, like we said earlier. I can do that. And I think it was Nuendo 10 that brought it in. The queue, about the queue we went there. Okay, cool. No worries. I psychologically answered it for you. It's good. It's good. So what I want to do is bounce the hospital lobby as a video. So I want the director to see that as well as hear that, right? So it's file export. I'm going to go to video. Man, tough work. In this one, it's not as extensive as our export box. I'm just going to name that whatever I need it to be, right? Name it bounce or hospital lobby or whatever. I could save this to the desktop. I can save it wherever it may be. I think, if I remember rightly, it takes the format of whatever the format is that the video you were using. In this current, it is MP4. It's H.264. I can add the time code to it. I can put the time code burn in. The actual burn in that you can put, Nuendo will put that in. Not the burn in that was there from our picture editor. I can determine what channel output it's going to. I can do a real-time export if I wanted. Right. The range between the locators is exported. If it's not, once again, if we don't have that cycle across the top, we can't do this. So just to prove that point here, because I'm all about that. Right? I've deselected that cycle. So that is the locator range. It's all about locators. It took me a while to kind of get used to that. But my brain is rewired to Nuendoism. So now, yeah, that's basically it. We just export the video and off it goes, and then you send it off to whichever department you want it to be. Last but not least, and you can do the entire video, or you can just do the scenes that you need just by using, your markers, 32 markers. Exporting an AAF. Cool. I keep looking up to see if there's any questions, but we're good. AF. Now, talk about old school. OMF, Open Media Framework, Advanced Authoring Format. Okay, so this is a track-based thing. Why would we want to export an AAF? Well, we may have someone working in another DAW. They may not necessarily have Nuendo or Cubase. Okay. So we need to give them track by track. We can give them a bounce that we've been talking about before, which is a stereo file or a multi-channel file. But now we can do this by track. Okay. Just like we're exporting, from an Adobe product or an Avid product or whatever it may be. I'm going to send all that stuff. The thing is, it will send. I'm surprised it's actually allowing me, because it's an AAF, I guess. It's allowing me to actually include a non-dialogue track, which is, okay. I'm on the fence about that one. Yes, I want it from left to right locator. I can set wherever I want it to be, right? That's where I need it to be. Copy media. Yes. Copy media. If you don't do that, you might be in a bit of a pickle. So if you do that and you say, okay, this session is not going to be used on this computer, I'm going to put this on a drive, give this to somebody, you're going to be in trouble because that media is not copied with it. Consolidating this will now take everything and copy, but then you're going to add handles. These handles, it's actually defaulted to 0. This is 1000 milliseconds, which is 1 second. You can set that to whatever you want it to be. It will allow little parts of the clips that are not visible right now. They're there just in case someone needs to edit it further. Right? Export media file reference. That will create the sequence and all the files loosely in a folder. Export as one file will create a sequence file, which is just one. Okay. Export the sample size is I can do this at 16-bit or 24-bit. Same as project, right? So I'm not going to hit OK. But that's basically what we're looking at. That will create a multi-track interchange or an exchange between the formats. One last thing. Okay. Drum roll. Here we go. So this is our pool, right? And there's two things I want to go within this pool. Kind of like our consolidating. I made a mistake one time. And if you make it one time, it's good. If you make it twice or three times, it's not a good thing. So how do I could have just imported stuff into this session from all over the place, right? Including the video, including, clips and whatever it may be. Do I really, really know that it's all in this session? Can I just drag this session, excuse me, and put this on a drive? Maybe not. I want to prepare it. I want to right click and prepare the archive. And I don't want to do that actually right now because I can do this now and click it. It's going to ask me a box about, do you want to copy the video as well? And then when I say yes, but cancel, it's going to start to copy all the files anyway, because that's what it's designed to do. I am preparing an archive. I'm ready to grab all the files from everywhere that I'm pointing to, pull it in. It's like a save copy in, if you will, or very similar to backup project. And backup project is doing the same thing, right? In a way. All right. If I did that, that'd be great. There's also one more thing here. Remove unused media. So let's say you wanted to tidy your stuff up. And this is, you finish your editing, and that's it. And you're just creating this dialogue guide. By removing unused media, of course, it's going to ditch stuff that you're not using, right? And kind of cleans up the session a bit. Okay? Right. Okay. So, yeah, we went an hour and 20 nearly. Wow, this is a bit of a record, and you stayed with me. This is awesome. Great. So I would like to let me go on to the next slide, because I'm going to thank you all. All right? Thank you for joining us tonight. There is a suggestion a video in this tutorial could have been other than a hospital. Okay. Sure, absolutely. I just happened to pick that scene. I'm sorry. It was just I happened to pick the hospital scene. I have lots of different scenes in the movie, but it just happened to be that scene. I'm very sorry if that offended anybody or, whatever it was. Cool. But thank you. And now, yes, I'm going to go into my happy holidays. Okay, cool. You weren't offended. Thank you. So anyway, happy holidays and thank you for watching, everybody. Yes, this is one of those times a year that, you get together with your families, and I wish you all prosperous holidays, and then I'll see you in the new year. But what about the new year? Well, in the new year, that will be, I believe it'll be the 20th of January. I'm just going to double check that. 20th of January, I'm going to talk about recording workflows. Okay, so that may be ADR, and then let's see what we can do. And maybe some preparation for Foley and stuff. Okay. So, and that's it. So thank you again for joining us, and hope to see you next time.